everybody, welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host Finley Evans, and today you are listening to the Hear Me Out podcast. I was just thinking about how I wish that I had like a cool story or like something cool to say about how I came up with that name, but I didn't. I honestly have no idea where I got that name because I was like 12 when I came up with it, obviously. That was like 4 years ago. Have no idea why I chose that name. I just thought like, hear me out. Like, I want people to hear me out. So I went with it, and I feel like it's too late to change it at this point. Like, I've heard some really cool podcast names recently, like By the Way. I really like that one. Whoa, That's Good is also, like, just such a, like, kind of like an iconic name of, like, whoa. Like, while they're talking, they can be like, whoa, like, that was good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a cool little, like, kind of like a play on words that they can use their title in it. I guess you could be like, if I had a guest on here, I could be like, okay, hear me out, and then say that. But like, you know, I don't know. Anyways, off of that little soapbox tangent, whatever you want to call it, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're going to be talking about the New Year's goals, resolutions, winter arc, whatever you want to call it. We're going to kind of be talking about that, my goals, goals that have not just my goals, but goals that like absolutely changed my life last year. And so I want to kind of help you guys with that, maybe give you some ideas if you're struggling to come up with some ideas. So yeah, we are going to be talking about that, but it was just Christmas, so I hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas, and I am so excited for what 2026 holds. Like, you guys, there's so many things that happened in 2025, or like to my family, or so many things that I did that, like, if you would have told me that all of that was going to happen as I walked into 2025, I would have been like, nope, I'm good. I'm going to stay in 2024. Like, I do not want this year to come. I don't want this to happen. Or I would have been like shocked with myself. So for example, like if you would have told me I would have been running 2 half marathons, because I didn't decide to get in my little running era until April of 2025, and I ran my first half in October and then my second half in December. And so if you would have told me that I was going to run 2 half marathons by the end of the year, I would have been shocked. So I don't know. I'm just like, it makes me excited to like go into 2026, like just being like, oh my gosh, so many things happen in a year, and you look back and it's just like, wow, God is so faithful. And yes, there were some really hard things that I walked through as well that, again, would have made me want to stay in 2024. But in the same way, the Lord taught me so much, and He grew me in so many ways as I walked through those really hard things. It was honestly probably, I was thinking just about my life in general overall. It was probably the best year of my life, but the hardest year of my life. Like, genuinely. And I think that that's such a God thing, is that like one of the hardest years of my life was the best year of my life. And I think that that was only possible because of God and because of Him walking through every season with me. Because first of all, 2025 summer was like the best summer I've ever had in my life. Like, me and my friends, I feel like, basically lived together throughout the summer and just went on trip with each other. And I went on a mission trip that completely changed the way, I don't know, I view the world and just my relationship with the Lord. And I just felt like it was like a true mission trip. And it can just be hard nowadays, because I feel like when you're young, they take you on mission trips and you're like painting churches and stuff, which is great. However, or you're like out on the street talking to random people, which is great. Do not hear, like, I'm not hating on that. However, when you go into a village in the middle of nowhere in a country you've never been in before, and you don't know, with these people where you don't speak their language, and they're sleeping on dirt floors, like, and you're ministering to that, and you're watching God work, like, I don't know, it just completely changed my perspective of like how big God truly is. Like, He's not just a God of my life, but He's a God of this world and this universe. And so, I don't know, 2025 was just like genuinely the best year. I also like started, no, I didn't, oh my gosh, I did not start high school in 2025. I'm so silly. But I was in my first year of high school at the beginning of 2025, and I started what I was going with that was, it kind of felt like my first year of high school this year almost. I started this new newspaper club at my school, which was like a big thing for me to branch out and do something on my own aside from my friend group, because I feel like I've just always done things with my friend group. However, branching out was so good for me, and it's been really good for me to meet new people and do all this new things. I've reconnected friendships and like I've gone to coffee with people that I just haven't done that in a long time, and that has just been so good for me and so refreshing for me. And just all the things. I got my license this year. It's just been a great year, and it honestly is like I'm kind of sad to leave 2025 because of how great it's been, but 2026, hopefully it'll be good. Okay, so let's jump into some quote-unquote resolutions, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to jump in and say I actually kind of think I had a word for the year. I did have a word for the year last year. However, I didn't really stick to it, so I do like to have a word, but I don't just like to be like, oh yeah, I want to be kind. I want to be like yes, my word for this year, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, is wisdom. Yes, I want to have wisdom, but I'm going to kind of talk about what specifically that looks like in my life, because I had like all of these things that I wanted to do, and I almost had like a phrase, but I feel like I wouldn't remember that. So I was just like, okay, I need one word that explains all these things that I want to do this year or be better at. And that word honestly just came out to be wisdom, because here's the things I want to do. I want to make good decisions and have wisdom in that, because it's so hard to like put my yes on the table for some things, and I'm really bad at saying no, and then I get overbooked, and then I end up canceling plans and disappointing people, letting people down, whatever. I don't want to do that this year. Like, I want to have wisdom in my decisions that I make, like where I put my yes on the table. I want to have wisdom in being a better friend, because I don't want to disappoint people when I say I'll be there and then I don't show up, or like, I want my actions to speak louder than my words, because I felt like this past year my words spoke louder than my actions, and I want to show people that I'm going to be there for them and show people, and so I just need to have wisdom in how I say things or what I plan and things like that. So if that makes sense of why I chose the word wisdom, so I was kind of trying to come up with a phrase of like putting my yes on the table, or like when I should and shouldn't. So like wisdom was just like the word that came to my mind. So 2026, I just want to have overall more wisdom, and I want, in what I read in my Bible, the Lord to fill me with the wisdom, because this year another one of my goals is I only have a couple books of the Bible left that I've never read before, and I want to finish going through those, and then I will have read the whole Bible. And so I want God to use that in my life, and the fact that I have read all of his scripture and what he's given to us. Not that I'm just going to read it, be done. I'll continue to go back through and read it more and read books over and over and learn, but like just the fact that I will have gone through the entire, like all of God's scripture and taken my time to truly learn and understand what all of it means. Because again, 2025, why I also think it was the greatest year, is the year I've been most consistent in reading my Bible like ever in my life. And not just like reading it with like a plan, but I decided like, okay, I have not read the Old Testament like I just hadn't read it the way that I wanted to, and I wanted to understand history. And so I went back through, you guys, and I've been reading it this year, and oh my gosh, I took my time. I watched videos on every chapter I read to understand it. I took notes. I looked up like articles on it. You guys, in the way that the history came together for me to understand the Bible, the way that I understood it this year, like I never have before in my life, like God just truly met me at my quiet time every morning to teach me, and that was just such a cool experience. So I want him to continue to use that once I've read his entire word. So let's go through kind of my goals. Is to finish, number one is to finish those books of the Bible that I have never finished. Next one, anybody that knows me and is like close to me is gonna laugh, but saving money, because I make plenty of money. I have plenty of things that I do to make money. I have a job. I'm over social media and communications at my dad's company. I babysit 24/7. I work at a little preschool with my friend. I do social media and I make some money off of that. And so but I have all this money, but I just like to spend. But this year I'm going on a mission trip. I'm going on this trip called Student Leadership University this summer. I have to get a car this year because I've just been using my brother's, because he's been off at college and can't have his car. So all of that being said, saving money. I'm trying to do like a no spend January. I did it last year. I literally didn't spend any money in January. I don't think other than like my dance ticket. Actually, I think my parents may have gotten that. So I don't know. I literally think I went all of last January without spending. I don't know how I did it. It's going to be so much harder this January being able to drive, but I did get a ton of like food or like random gift cards. So I'll probably use those in January, and then just like, so if my friends are like, oh, let's go out to eat and I don't want to miss out because I'm not spending the money, like I'll just use a gift card. So anyways, no spend January. I went to something else that happened in 2025, which is also part of what made it the hardest year of my life, is one of my brothers left for college and one of my brothers moved out. And, you know, this year one of my brothers is leaving for the army, which is just like crazy. It's such a like big deal and such a big thing. And, you know, as for the rest of my siblings, like I'm a sophomore in high school. I'm going in 2026, I'm going to be a junior. And then before you know it, I'll be a senior, I'll be graduating. And so like, as we have the rest of this time in my house, as we're all still living together, like I want to really work on my sibling like relationships and just like be close with everyone while I can, while we still live in the same household. So that's another goal for this year. I want to work on obviously all my social media and content because I can just kind of be here and there, but I really want to try and like focus in, especially since it started to become like I've made some money off of it. Obviously the reason I've done this podcast is to always just share the gospel. I really haven't, like I make more money over on like my like personal account, like on my personal YouTube, Instagram, all that. But so like that's not why I do this podcast. I do this podcast because I want to be a light and I want to share words with other people. However, I do like, it would be great again if this could be a job. So like I really just want to focus in on, you know, getting those brand deals and on time, and maybe finding management this year, which I actually do have a manager on LTK, but like having a manager over in other aspects. So anyways, yeah. Growing this podcast. Another random one, drinking more water. I've got my Hydro Jug right here. My mom got me this for Christmas. It's actually, I love the color. Anyways, I'm gonna take a sip. So, oh, sorry, I keep knocking the microphone. Last podcast, I like totally messed up the audio for the rest of the episode. So I hope it didn't just do that again. Anyways, drinking more water. Along with that, eating healthier and going out to eat less. I went out to eat a lot the second half of this year, obviously because I started driving and, you know, friends started driving. So we started meeting up, hanging out, you know, just like doing all of that less. No Amazon in January, which is like packages, which would go along with spending money. So obviously this year I want to find my clothing style. I have so many clothes, way more than I need. However, I wear like the most random stuff, and I feel like I have the potential to put together really cute outfits, but I just don't. And so I want to find like my style this year and be intentional with what clothes I buy, not just buy random things. I want to read more books. I read the Bible, but that's pretty much it. I'm not a book reader. I actually just bought a couple books and I started the first one. So we're getting there. We're already starting that in 2025. Again, I'm already starting to implement all this. I'm not waiting until like January 1st because then I feel like I'm just going to overwhelm myself. And if you have all these things you want to get done, like why do you have to wait till January 1st? Just like start now. And honestly, if you start now and start slowly building on up until January, then it's just going to be easier and you're going to be in that routine. I do think it's silly to just save all of that just for January 1st. Sorry, I lost my place. Yeah, so reading more books. Okay. Along with I'm kind of all over the place here, kind of bouncing back and forth, but along with the saving money, set yourself a goal of like, I want my savings to reach X amount of money this year. So I'm doing that. Gossiping less. I feel like in freshman year like the end of freshman year, I was a lot worse at it than I was beginning of sophomore year, like first semester of sophomore year. However, I go to a small school, not that it's an excuse, but it's like hard because everybody pretty much knows a lot about what's going on with other people. And I just don't want to talk about that this year because I've learned that when you don't involve yourself in the drama, your life is just so much less chaotic, and you can just enjoy high school so much more than like worrying about all the little things. I want to take more pictures. You guys, I do vlog and video all the time, but I just don't have many cute pictures. I was like going through my camera roll the other day, and I was like, I just don't have that many cute pictures. So I want to take more cute pictures. I want to run another half marathon this year, and I want to train for a full marathon. That I want to run the Disney full marathon at the beginning of 2027. So I want to kind of prep, save my money again for my ticket, train, all of that this year in 2026. I want to get my skin under control. It's gotten so much better in the past month. However, back in August, starting sophomore year, I've never had issues. Like before sophomore year, I rarely ever got like a pimple. But for some reason, beginning of sophomore year, my skin just decided to go whack. And like I started to develop like acne and stuff, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I just was like, I kind of stopped drinking as much like dairy and eating as much dairy and doing all that, and it started to help. So just kind of figuring out what that is that triggers that and to try and keep that under control. Locking in on algebra 2 specifically, because in the fall I'll start college algebra, which is like, I feel like it'll be fine. But the second semester of algebra 2, I need to lock in because algebra 2 is not my friend. But I want to lock in and work hard at it and try and finish with an A. My goal, I would love to not take the final, which would mean a 95 or above, which would mean working my butt off. But you know what? Nothing is impossible, so we're going to try. I want to be more intentional with my friends, especially now that a lot of us can drive and people are starting to drive. Just like when we meet up, and I'm the kind of girl, like, I love people and I love functions and hanging out with my friends. However, there are also so many days, and I don't understand this about myself, is because I'm such a people person. I can be such an introvert and just not want to go and just stay at home and be productive. I think it's because I'm addicted to productivity, and it's like, yes, I would love to go hang out with them. However, I have so much that I need to get done, so I'm going to stay home and I make myself think that I enjoy doing that better when really I know I'd rather go hang out with my friends. However, I don't want to be disappointed in not getting the things that I said I wanted to get done. So I just need to find a healthier balance and be intentional with going and hanging out with my friends. And then this semester, I've already talked about this with my friends, but I want to start a Bible study with them at school in the parking lot before school. The juniors kind of have their own. However, I think it'd be cool for like at least my close friends to do one. I mean, anyone will be welcome. But just kind of do one for us and dive into the word together, because iron sharpens iron, and it's so important. It says like, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am also, is what God says. And so I just want to gather in his name and do that together. And so I think that would be really cool. So those are just some ideas. I'm still going to be working through my goals. I'll also think about it more, and I'm going to post a like regular YouTube video about like habits for the new year that kind of just apply to more areas of life. So go follow my other YouTube channel. It'll be linked in the description below, and that video will be out soon, hopefully within the next week of this podcast being out. Definitely not by the time this podcast is out, because I'm going to upload this podcast right after I finish recording it, but within the next week. And so yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to today's episode. I almost said video, but podcast episode. I hope it helped you guys come up with some ideas for the new year, and I hope you guys had a very Merry Christmas, and I'm excited to jump into 2026 with you guys. I'll see y'all in the next episode.